Well, we take people from zero to being a qualified practitioner in 2 years. So it's a very steep learning curve. And we only take people who we feel have the personal qualities to get there in the 2 years of time.
My now wife and I did a 6-month Healing the Shadow training course with Marianne. It was an incredible, group experience. And it was actually several months after that where I contacted Marianne and said to her, is there any chance that you're thinking of training this material?
I had an interview and, probably within minutes I was like, okay, here's someone that A, has got the measure of me, that can kind of see and get me, and also I had the real sense, okay, this person can hold whatever it is that I might bring to the table.
We had our first 5-hour session and I thought, right, let's see if she can actually really go there with some of my stuff. And I tested her and I have to say, Marianne's boundaries were applicable. The way she held the session was amazing, and she got more out of me in those 5 hours than I'd been able to do in a long, long time in other places. So I was like, yes, I was convinced that 1, she was the right person to do this work with, and 2, that this was the right work that was going to enable me to go further.
Yeah, I'm definitely tempted to train. So there's a bit of fear there, but then there's an underlying saying that this stuff works. Like, this stuff really works, and for me is more powerful than normal therapy. So, like, if this is really your passion, what you want to do, well, go for it. Because I feel like I naturally kind of flow with it, and it speaks to me. So yeah,
I'm a kind of a scientific kind of guy. I like to know how things work, and I like to know how people work. I like to know how I work. Really, that's what it's about. How do I work? How the bits of me that not work very well, like my anger, how does they not work? And this email popped in from Marianne. I kind of lit up, and I left it for a week to settle. I came back to it. You know what? I'm going to do this.
There was something going, okay, there's a potent woman here who can really hold whatever I can bring. And I thought, okay, I'm in.
So it's like at every level, it's really well designed, because we were also doing our own process work. In the first year, you practice leading a process with the fellow trainees. But as of yesterday, we started with real practice clients. So that's great as well, because we'll learn loads from doing that.
And she's constructed a training course which is very experiential. So really from the first day or weekend, we're actually working with each other, experiencing it for ourselves.
Let's do a bit of this, let's try it now like this, now talk about it like this, and then practice it again until you really like living it and breathing it. And now actually go and be on the other end and be a client and actually feel it again.
And a couple with that, we do our own work, because we have to look inside ourselves and do work with our own shadows. So that's a massive part of it as well.
I didn't really give full credit to the depth and the level of commitment and dedication that was going to go into this course, both from Marianne, but also what was then going to be required or invited for all of us to step into and step up to. So, I'm really grateful I made that step.
There are things we've broached on this course that I thought I'd never say to anybody. There are things that I've said and done that I thought I'd be taking to my grave. That's my reality. And now I'm starting to see some way to heal those parts of myself.
There's no question. It's a big commitment. 10 weekends a year for 2 years, plus, a day a month practice days. There's so much that goes into it, and the kind of peer support. Last night I was doing a talk alongside 2 of my colleagues. That's another 3 hours in the evening of really going into this, looking at the theory. So it's not just practice, there's so much that goes in.
It's very structured. I mean, the processes are well defined, and so they're quite easy to learn, but the nuances of working builds as you go through the course.
So I feel like her challenge was to train people, but not to try and replicate how she would do it, but to allow them to grow their own way of doing it whilst having a very strong ground underneath them of that modality and that way of working.
The principle that's most important to me in our training is that we train our trainees, we hold our trainees with the same love and care and unconditional positive regard as we want them to hold their clients.
It's like your stuff is precious, like you're precious, and the things you're bringing are really precious. And actually, if that's not held really, you know, be it your rage or your vulnerability, if it's not held as something precious and really sort of honoured and not shamed, then it can be so damaging. And I just think so that it's utterly essential that the practitioners learn that, know what it feels like to be nurtured in that way and held in that way.
So doing that work with Marianne on myself enabled me to understand the risks and what I can truly bring to the therapeutic relationship.
There isn't a mismatch between what she's teaching us and how she is. And I think that's really rare, you know, to actually be trained to do something, but in a way that teaches you how to hold other people, not because that's an explicit thing, but because of how it's done.
Yeah, you learn it always, you know, through intellectually, through feeling, and practicing. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It really gave me something new, you know, to learn.
She's aligned with her true self. She seems like she's where she should be and you can sense that in her. So when you sense that she's open and honest and is exactly where she's at, it gives you that reassurance that you can be open and honest and be where you're at. She's very welcoming and she acknowledges all parts of you, and when she says these things, you're like, okay, you know. It's like she ain't here just from a place of I'm an expert or professional. She's sort of speaking from lived experience, and you can sense that. And that's what makes it a bit more, makes it powerful.
Well, she's very willing to look at her own shadow, and she's very aware of the potential pitfalls that any trainer could get into. I think she names them, and she's curious to know where that may show up in her. So she has a, if you like, a light on it, and a very openness around that, and she's willing to be challenged. And she makes that clear to her students, you know, so there's an open dialogue that can happen between her and her students.
All of them are welcome in any moment, whether they're facilitating or whether they're being facilitated or whether they're having a discussion or sending an email. All of them is welcome. And for them to get to experience what that's like heals something in them.
In order to be able to do this work, well, you need to be able to provide a really safe held space where all is welcome for your clients. But you're not going to learn that unless you're going to experience that for yourself in this training.
I am not an easy customer. I will push back. I will challenge the facilitator. And even that was welcome.
We've gone into some really gnarly territory. We've had some really big issues like surface on the carpet. At no point has I felt this can't be held here.
Because there's part to me which I've suppressed, which I'm ashamed of, really. I'm ashamed of some of the things I've done. And that's very, you know, kept a lot of me buried. So to allow that to be welcome into the room allows all of me to show up, really.
There'll be times where my stuff will come up for me as I'm facilitating someone else. I'm holding the space, I'm facilitating, and it's my stuff coming up. And when I get to debrief that and share that, Marianne's curiosity and the way she works with that stuff, with the shadowy stuff that's coming up for me while I'm facilitating, her way of being with that's been one of the other major differences, because that's the stuff that really counts.
So she'll go towards the angry part of you, or she'll go towards the really sad part of you. So you're never shamed for anything. It's always like that part has a job to do, and is absolutely welcome. And although it took me a long time to realise she really did mean it, she really, really means it. And I would love to offer that. It's kind of, it fits with my values, it fits with how I want to be with people.
So literally our individual journeys become our collective journey as well. And there's something really powerful about that, about tending to any perceived conflict, any tensions, any transgressions, or where boundaries may have been crossed in the moment. Literally not giving anything any breathing space to become something else. And we've had whole parts of our morning, for example, have been dedicated to that. None of it wasted time. It's served actually to deepen the connection, strengthen the container, and without that we can't do the work we're going to do.
So what she always does on a Sunday is, even before check-in, she'll open up the space to say, is there anything that anyone wants to say, if any boundaries have been broken, or anyone's got any of that sort of I don't know what you'd really say. It might not be as much as the conflict, but just those feelings that actually somebody might have upset you in some way. There's a time to bring that.
People are given space to express themselves. People are given opportunities to reconnect. We are taught the 5 fields framework, a way of recommunicating and communicating in a way that understands the other individual's perspective, not just one's own.
So to get away from this battle of the egos and fears and fantasies to what do I really want from this, and what's the facts, and what can the other person agree with, and how can we move forward in a constructive way, rather than causing loads of collateral damage in a pointless argument.
I think with being vulnerable and actually speaking of what was how I felt and what actually hurt me, and the fears and fantasies that were involved in it, like what I was afraid of happening. Actually saying to someone, this is what I'm afraid of happening, and it's how it makes me feel. And actually saying that you don't have to make a change. You don't need to change, but I need to tell you this anyway.
It gives us an opportunity to understand what's really going on in the conflict, and to work through that, and to reconnect, and to allow the conflict its space, because it's there for a reason.
Yes, it can help diverse communities get together. It can help us repair bridges, because I guess from my experience, there's a lot of anger, a lot of judgment, a lot of pressure, a lot of being forced by, as white people, be forced by Western to reject a part of myself. So if I'm in a safe space and I feel like the people in the room can handle what I have to say, then I can express that, finally get it out.
My truth is, I've taken some very difficult cultural issues around belonging and race onto the carpet, witnessed by my colleagues, and it's been really powerful, massively powerful. So yeah, I have no doubt that this modality can work cross-culturally, cross ethnic lines.
So the 5-hour session allows us to go really deep. It allows the person to be as they are without the time pressure of we've got to get something done in 50 minutes or an hour. It allows someone to talk for 3 hours non-stop if that's what they want to do. And for some people that's really important because they've never been heard before in their life.
There's a real invitation to travel right into the heart of issues and dilemmas. And I do think in a 5-hour session, people get a lot of clarity and a lot of movement, you could say, and integration on big old traumas that they might have talked about with a counsellor, say, for a long time.
I was really skeptical at the beginning, a 5-hour session. I'm like, well, surely that one sounds a bit of an old overindulgence. And yet, those 5 hours, it went by, we didn't even have a break, and it went by like it was nothing. And where we went was just so amazing to go. It's like I got to one level and then it went deeper and then deeper.
It is such a luxury as a practitioner, and of course having done it myself as a participant, to have that dedicated time and focus, to be able to explore what's really going on, to go into the backstory, the family history, have someone listen actively and authentically to you for that duration of time. That doesn't happen in our life.
And in the second year, the trainees work with practice clients, and they work together 2 at a time with those clients, one working, one supporting. So they build really close working relationships with each other, and those go on for when they're qualified. So all our practicing practitioners support each other really closely around their work. They also facilitate each other, through shadow work sessions regularly, so that they can continue to work on the deeper issues that they want to work on in order to become the practitioner that they want to be.
But over that first year and then coming to the second year, I'm like, you know what? I'm really falling for these people. I'm really getting connected to the other people that Marianne's worked with, the other people as part of the Healing the Shadow community, if you like. And I'm beginning to really appreciate what we bring. We bring something very different, and I can see myself leaning into that community a lot.
We're a community of people who train together. We still work together. I've been helping assisting Marianne deliver communication courses, restoring connection courses, and with his second year training. So there's been a lot of ongoing contact with the community.
We're passionate about training people who are serious about going on to practice, and we're passionate about supporting them in setting up that practice, and we recognise that is a whole nother thing. It's hard to build a practice for any practitioner, and it takes real determination, and it takes real belief in yourself. And to believe in yourself, you need other people to be believing in you and championing you.
I don't think it's everybody that will be able to train into a therapist of real strength and ground in 2 years. But I see her people come out of her training, and I would say, yes, I would feel confident. I have put myself in their care as a practice client, and I have felt confident in receiving what they offer.
Sitting with a client for the first time, I felt very confident that what we'd learned had prepared me and enabled me to be able to sit with somebody, for them to lead the session, but for me to support them through their journey and to resolve the issue of the day with them.
I'm actually theraping and working myself as I'm facilitating another person. It's just outstanding, which actually is the bit that's enabling me to become my own Healing the Shadow practitioner for myself, not a clone of Marianne. That's not what it's about. It's actually knowing my stuff to that degree. Here it comes up again, and I'm being able to work with it in action. It's been revolutionary for me.
She's recommending the practitioners that she's trained, and so it's a perfect way to be finishing your training and know that you are, straight away going to be having that recommendation and that platform and support in that way.
So I'd say if you're drawn to doing depth work with people, to really supporting people to move forward in their lives, to create the kind of lives that they want to have for themselves, to overcome limiting beliefs, blocks, barriers, etc. And you're drawn to a model or a methodology that is incredibly powerful, I'd say be open to it.
If you got a curious mind, and if you want to learn, if you want to grow, it could well be for you.
It's a shorter training. It's a small group, so thorough in the way and so caring that actually and there is evidence of practitioners going out and getting and building up practices straight away after the training, which is just win.
I've got another year, which is good because I need that training, but to be able to work with people will be brilliant.
Don't let the story that you're not good enough, that you're not ready, that you're somehow not the right caliber, quality, etc., get in the way of you taking that step. Because if that was the case, I wouldn't be here now.
Trust yourself and trust Marianne. The course is intensive. It is well thought through, structured. You have all the tools that you need. You have the support of your community. You are guided. You are informed. You're empowered. there really is no reason not to jump in and to follow your heart and embrace what this work can do for yourself and for your community.